Man, it gets me every time. It's an all too familiar scene in the Outer Banks, and this is now the 8th home that's collapsed in Buxton, North Carolina, this week alone, all because of the rough surf. Huge waves from not only Humberto, Imelda, Aaron, unnamed storm.
Yeah, you name it. A lot of interaction offshore. Our Katie Byrne, by the way, she's the one that caught the collapse that happened during her live coverage yesterday. Now, these collapses have raised concern about the future of the Outer Banks and the eroding shoreline. East Carolina University Coastal Studies Associate Professor David Lagomasino. I'm hoping I said it right, David. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Did I do okay?
Very close.
Now, watching this epic thing unfold this week,
Yeah.
a lot of attention is being brought to the Outer Banks, and we want to get your insight on what's happening. Why are we seeing this happen so much in Buxton and along the Outer Banks?
Sure, right. I mean, we're already a pretty vulnerable coastline in terms of, we are just a sandy, long strip of islands here. But we are seeing, the effects of storms and sea level rise over the last, few decades, right? We're seeing some of the wettest storms occurring. We're seeing the sort of variability, sort of year-to-year variability of cyclones in the region, where one year we have tons of cyclones and the next year we have none, or very few. And so all of these things are sort of contributing to how sediments and water are moving along the coast. And it's just been dramatic form, at least in the last few days, as we've been dealing with these cyclones off the coast and seeing some awesome waves that are unfortunately leading to the collapse of these homes along the beach.
Yeah, and David, when we talk about some of these waves and you talk about sea level rise, a lot of the questions people have is, what options do homeowners have now? I mean, they're seeing their neighbors' homes collapse. At this point, what happens next?
So this is a good question, and many that we're trying to talk with communities about, because, right, these are private homeowner homes. And so no one is living in the home at these times. But, what can they do? I mean, at this moment, there's kind of not much to be done. There's certain things in place, in terms of insurance buyouts that, the house needs to collapse in order to get the insurance buyout. There are some policy discussions talking about buyout programs and allowing for sort of managed deconstruction of these buildings, of these homes, before they actually go into the water and wash downstream, affect other homes, and affect the beaches and marine traffic, if you think about it, as well as it goes downstream. But, I would say what is the homeowner really need to do is to be informed of what's going on and being able to make those decisions for their own property, but also talk to, policymakers and the communities to figure out how we can actually do a more managed sort of deconstruction of the homes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we got to think past that, right? Rebuilding with resiliency. I mean, the dream of hearing the waves, of having that oceanfront home, it's not a unique dream. I think every American would love to have a home like that. So where do we go from here, looking maybe 10, 20 years down the road with building?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I moved down here was to be, by the beach, and, luckily we don't have a beach home. But I think in the next 10, 15, 20 years, if we, the beaches are still going to be beautiful out here, right? But we are dealing with these things. And I think being able to talk to, scientists, engineers, communities, to figure out what are the best solutions, because part of it is potentially engineering solutions. How do we, build stronger or smarter homes? Where do we build them? Thinking about these potential buyouts and relocation programs. And so I think as a community here in the Outer Banks, as well as other vulnerable kind of beach communities across the East Coast, we need to be thinking more about that 10, 15, 20-year plan, because this is going to keep happening. We're going to see this retreat of the shoreline, and it's, you know, these houses now, but next year it's another set of houses that are right behind it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, thinking about it as a more broad discussion between scientists, engineers, policymakers, the community members, and those are really things that we need to be talking about as we go into a more resilient community here.
Man, I
And
could
then,
talk
of
to you all day.
course, yeah, applying it to other shorelines that are struggling, like the east coast of Florida and
sure.
coastal New England. David, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We really appreciate the insight, and thanks for representing Eastern Carolina University. Good to talk to you this morning, and, you know, a conversation to continue in the future.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Britta and Craig. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.